Dumelang. And welcome to podcasting Arona Western Podcast. Today we honor eternally one of politicians Zamo brand play ki mo challenge ki youth. So o tlo re bella gore tsela ga ge jena ga in the politics leadership. It's an intro nyana batho ba go itse go ntwana.
No, thank you very much. Kalibitso ke Nchaupa Molatelo, but I'm famously known Kamaraka anyway. So I grew up in Limpopo, but most of my life came to Nchaupa. So politics, by the way, it was for me. It was nothing I had interest in. So we met some other comrades in high school during those era courses and so. So we pushed, but I had to leave courses very early. And I was recruited into the EFF by one other person. I don't know, I must join the organization. It's very productive. So that is how I became who I am in politics today.
So, because you are recruited by someone else.
Yes.
So, can you remember community or yeah?
Yes, I was recruited by one member of my community. I'm not sure if it's allowed to go through the name. Kilapis is famously known. There was a time when we had a bit of an issue. I think Mamtel was still functional, was still operating at that time. So as we were joining the political space, we were told, hey, Mamtel, this tavern of S is recruiting young people to come there and drink. They go to school with many issues and whatsoever. So that is how we were introduced into politics. We had this thing here, Damakok move. We'd approach issues even though we don't know what should be the outcomes. So I think this has been a very, very, very progressive and a learning curve for in politics. So Lapis taught us, he took us, he gave us documents. We started shifting the mentality from the demagogue approach. Then we had a very proper approach. It is rational for everyone who's participating. So I think that is the man who Lauren gave us politics. Yeah, I was not alone, but because now I'm alone, I just say gave us.
Yeah, from in terms of youth as a whole, why did you choose EFF in respect?
See, when we joined the EFF, we were given a principle, EFF Ethiopia, which when we looked into it and when you studied proper, correctly from where it became, you can tell or the EFF was the only way out, was the only last hope. Remember, the ANC is affected by a cancer, that division, which the division started way back in the Morocco conference. When it was even announced, the first elective conference of the ANC in the Morocco, when they even announced the division that was within, the capitalist and the communism was finding expression within the ANC at the same time. So it became a bit of an issue which then led to the separation but within the party. So that cancer went on. If you remember very carefully, there was a party called COPE. It was formed out of the ANC. It was affected by the very same disease of the ANC, which is this factional cancer. People get to be divided. That is why COPE never lasted. It died very early because of, I think, cancer rapidly multiplied within. But we can see the results of that cancer within the ANC. So the ANC shifted, it became something else after a long time. So it was very progressive. For every young person who's hoping for change, then it's very much progressive for them to change to EFF. That is why I chose EFF. I chose it because it spoke to black people who are not controlled by white people. Even if you read through history, or anything, but they're saying the hand that feeds you is the one that controls you. So the ANC was being bombarded with funds from both communist and capitalist countries. So it was controlled by both capitalist and communist countries, which made it dysfunctional. It can't function if you are separated. You are giving me money, it's giving me money, but you are fighting. We are going to have issues when coming to me. So I think that is the reason why young people in majority are shifting from the ANC to an alternative party, which then advocate for their well-being or in every society, which is the EFF by far. I think the ANC has always been in charge of the government. They failed to introduce free education. They failed to introduce many other things like your proper housing. These RDPs that they are giving to our people, especially considering dental and many other new development, which then reflects apartheid system, which gathered or combated black people into one space where they treat us like criminals. They deny us access to many other opportunities. Imagine a young person in Afro Village. What opportunity do you get in Afro Village? There's no opportunities, there's nothing, zilch. So I think if we are to speak change or we are to speak development, we can't speak development in the ANC. The ANC is no longer the correct platform to do it. We must migrate, and we can't even be endorsing the DA. We have seen the tendency of the DA over time. When they have issues, instead of confronting issues rationally, they would rather, last they had a march to ANC offices, then they declared the EFF #1 enemy, and we know very much well who's funding these parties, which are the very same parties that are perpetuating the very same struggles that we young people, especially black people, are faced with. Because I think all white people are born with privilege. They are born with money, they are born with proper education, everything they are born with it, which is a natural right to us, but it's made something highly impossible to achieve.
So I'll follow up to question you a little longer. Why specifically like EFF? So but interested or like where did you start? Because I want to know EFF as a party, and how is politics?
We started this thing called COSAS, I think in Laboratana. I was doing maths and science in earlier history. So advantage was during other periods like your geography, your life sciences, we would meet as maths and history. So when we met in such classes, I think Ratanan came to me and said, I've identified your potential, your speaking potential. Because even previously, ever since I enrolled Mui today, I have been part of the debating team. I've been with Member Sibuku from grade 8 until I think when I completed my high school. So these comrades identified potential and they came to me and said, my brother, look, we are told there's a movement called COSAS, Congress of South African Students. It advocates for rights of pupils in a given institution. It is based there in the institution. It has nothing to do with what's happening in the community. Because I believe by then we did not understand what is happening within our community. We were very blind. We did not know anything. But over time, when we merged Liberata now, we formed this thing of COSAS of high school. I think we had a couple of successes. That is what led us to want to maneuver more environment and cover much land outside the institution. So our journey within has been very fruitful. When we met for the first time, we had to discuss issues, all kind of learning and teaching resources at school. We had to identify potential students who can be assisted, those who are from a disadvantaged background, what are their challenges, social and political, so that we can assist in championing their interests as well. Because some other people can't even speak, but we are gifted with the speaking gift. So we have to use it to liberate not only ourselves but others. So after formation of COSAS, we went on. We had our internal issues. Politics of this community started interfering within our politics within school. So that is when I think part of the division came in. Right, comrades, you know what? We're not going to be controlled. Now I rather not. But by then, before I even quit COSAS, I was approached by Olapis and telling me, I see your potential. Because we had this thing, a debate in a community meeting here in Brandford. So we had that debate and we moved to a private location where we had to speak these issues. So no, I can take you to the regional office, connect you directly to resources because of now.
Before we are deep, because before the change, it was probably a division.
Yes, there was a division.
There was a control plan from the members
Yes.
The
members didn't infiltrate that the space was ANC members. Because they even approached us the other day. I remember I was with this other boy of mine, Melvin. They approached us. We spoke a lot of politics to say, but what is happening? What is the view within the school? And they even tried to find associates for us to say, you can associate with this one. This one is very dangerous and whatsoever. So we started realizing, I think one of the person who I encouraged against was Martin Indovan. We were told, don't work with that man. So there were many politics that were emerging at the time. But fortunately, Lapis got to us before we even had issues. You know what happened also was the issue of chairperson of COSAS in school. I had interest, but we had already spoken. He's going to chair, then I'm going to take care of finances of that organization because I was already good with fundraising skills. So we agreed upon that. So with the move of time, comrades would come to you and say, Chief, you can't give it to Ratana, you must chair. So I think that was part of the faction that grew within COSAS. And ultimately it led me and the cabal that was supporting to say you must chair to exit COSAS. So when we exit, we met Lapis, then we were introduced immediately into the EFF. But to answer the question of politics in Bramfleet, the dynamics have changed. You know, the landscape it's I don't know, the steep is very tough now to climb. Because when we look into our politics, many people have forgotten what is the role of leadership within a community, which is firstly there are programs of capacitating, which is part of service delivery, capacitating community members. We have argued the other time to say Bramfleet within the rurals of the entire West Rand. I think West Rand or Bramfleet is the food basket of the entire country. Everything you eat all across, even when I go to Limpopo, I find products which were produced here in Bramfleet. So we're saying, as young people of Bramfleet, we cannot champion any other scale of economical means except agriculture. Yes, I'm not saying we should close the others, but I'm saying agriculture becomes the ultimate important because within the space of agriculture, we exist. This is where we reside. We reside within an agricultural space. You go all around, I think it was even declared a hub. There is a board somewhere when you drive along N14 to Carltonville, where it speaks of how the West Rand is rich in terms of agriculture. So our community in particular, we lack firstly that issue of capacitation. Secondly, in terms of leadership, I think there is a vacant in terms of leadership. What we judge the leadership of, it's the ability to reproduce. You see, if you are a leader, we won't judge your leadership at the moment correctly, but posterity will then be able to say, through you, this person was delivered. If we look at all African leaders who existed, your Thabo Mbeki, let's put aside members of the ANC. Let's focus on the most important ones who are unsent. So when you look at those people, they've produced. When you look under their names, we have Steve Biko. Steve Biko has so many followers. He has produced leadership who subscribe to his ideology in particular. So, but in this community, we are not influenced, we are not even interested in anything. That is a sign of absence. That is a sign of vacant in terms of leadership. When young people or the society is not encouraged to move any direction whatsoever. So I think what we need here in this community is to go back. We must do our capacitation. Then after capacitation, we have to go into the actual work. We have to do the capacitation because we have an agri park here which has been long pending. I think it's been 10 years. Approximately 10 years. This thing has been pending like that. It's a white elephant that is not doing it. It's not generating into the economy, it's not doing anything. We have Maroling there, which instead take money out of our government to pay security card, which is a good thing, but it's a bad thing because of the money is not regenerated back into the system. So it shows us a very big vacant in terms of what should be done to sustain this, what we have by far. So all this non-functional farms or whatever projects that are here, it is as a result of poor leadership. Because if there was leadership, I think we would have been channeled and directed.
But then speaking of those farms, what don't you think we should blame youth and not leadership? What is youth doing in terms of taking charge of their own resources and stop blaming the government?
Yes. I think one thing that the government did was to close all the terms that provided whatever resources that were required by this community. Maroling, it is closed not because of their internal issues, simply because there are external issues. What are those external issues? Government officials went into Maroling, they looted money. Then workers of Maroling who were entitled to that money did not get the money. Ultimately, with the move of time, the farm collapsed because it couldn't carry on its duties anymore. But importantly, we know who are members of the government or external forces that penetrated this Maroling farm. Today, the very same people who did this thing, they are refusing. I think we had several meetings to discuss issue of Maroling. Say, but comrades, now we have our own funding. We have our own people who are willing to fund this thing. The only thing we need is you to sign this document so that we can function. They've put insecurity actually to safeguard against the community, not to safeguard anything. Because if you are very vigilant, whatever material that is there is being stolen on a daily basis. I think there are a couple of cases that were opened. It is a sign of insignificance in terms of dealing with issues from the government side. So young people in societies where they are not capacitated, the only thing they know how to do, they can rather steal your laptop rather than promoting your podcast, because they have nothing to eat. So it becomes that when you are not capacitated, you don't see the use of this laptop turning into money. in terms of regeneration, but you can sell it once off, then you are fine. So these are the issues we are faced with in the community.
So like SEFF, don't allow one of us to so the lack of development. So SEFF loan, if you were to take over Brandley,
Learn to of development that needs to come in. I think if you have listened to the EFF very well, we speak very harshly. We are not even apologetic when coming to the issue of land. We want land, which is the first and the primary objective of the organization. We want land. I think the first program that we must have here is that one of land. We must give our people land. We must take land that belongs to Randwest municipality, identify those lands and their uses, capacitate young people on using those lands. Because it's important that we build a sustainable future. We must come up with institutions of our own here in this community which will deal with issues of agriculture. Like I said, this is an agricultural hub. So we must have our own institution that deals with agriculture specifically, so that we grow this thing, we turn it into a multi-billionaire until it reaches the trillionaire level. So in order to develop this community, we must start there. See what we have that needs to be grown, so that when this thing is there and functioning, we are then able to deal with other loopholes. I think the other issue that is faced by this community, especially young people, is the issue of education. We have West Call. When you look at number of young people who register there from this community, they are below 5%. I've been there, I've led West Call, I was the spokes of SRC, so I know the dynamics of the institution. That is why now if you look into West Call, they have introduced a new policy which you don't agree with, that recruits across Gauteng, than recruiting young people across other areas. So I was saying the other issue is education, not only for young people but for our parents as well. See how much literate our parents are. They can't even operate WhatsApp to send you a message, don't forget to buy sugar. It's very difficult to do that.
Very difficult.
So we must address those issues as community, as EFF, and we must unite in terms of building our community sustainably. So the EFF, it speaks only sustainability before we can speak of the actual program. If we are to introduce a program, we must know how we are going to sustain it.
So like three years ago, a change of leadership, which currently can used.
Yes.
So in these 3 years, any impact for the community so far?
Yes, we see impact. We see people being evicted illegally in this community ever since this young boy got the opportunity to be the leader, to be the first resident. We've seen arrogance from leadership. You know, the previous leadership was very useless, but was never arrogant towards the people. So through this one, we see arrogance, lack of consistency, the lack of development, lack of everything. Even the way we conduct our community meeting is no longer the same. We have never received even a single report from the council. He came here, he promised Wi-Fi. Young people were very happy. He promised many things which are not delivered till date. This is a sign that the ANC, not only there is young boy, because I think he's also been suppressed by the politics within the ANC. Remember, he subscribes to the ANC after all. When he gets to the ANC caucus or the council, before even the council, they go to the caucus and they're given a mandate to say, on this issue, you vote like this. On this issue, you vote like this. So they don't care if those issues are going to oppress their community after they've voted. What is important for them is to vote. So through this leadership, we're not going to say young person, but we're going to say through this leadership of the ANC, we are unable to see young people. Because we have the ANC Youth League nationally, which has done absolutely nothing ever since the term of Ramaphosa. They've never advocated for young people generally. So we can't say in the ANC we find young people. We see the minister in the youth. She's very old. She's very tired. She does not even understand our generation. So we must erase the term youth when we speak of the ANC, so that we are on the same page.
So basically, how we leadership?
There is no leadership in this community. Well, we lack leadership. If there is something we need, it's leadership. Because we don't have anything here. We start with issues of water. The simplest thing. You know, there are so many houses that are struggling with water. There are times where you find this community, the entire community, due to rent water issues, being suffering, having a water crisis. Now, the councillor should have long organized that in this community we must have our own backup systems rather than the backup system that is provided by the municipality. We must have our own backup system. I can tell you, I can assure you, there are communities where local councillors buy their own Jojo tanks for a purpose of service delivery. You buy the Jojo tank once off, you put it there in your yard, or you buy 2 of them. When there is water crisis in this community, we have MPCC, we go to a house, we can go there, you know, we create multi-streams for supply of water alone. Then we can speak of many other issues. But if you fail to provide water, you are a problem.
But for me, I don't understand. Bromley is such a small location. Why are we failing in so many service deliveries? And do you see future in terms of ANC next year, since we are coming to be having elections?
Bromley might be a small in terms of the demographics, but what one at large is very huge. I don't know it's how many hectares, but it's very huge. We are covering Bromley, we cover part of the Gretcharing, we cover part of not Tarleton, but just before Tarleton, we cover that part, going to Wetlands. We come back at it's very huge, this area. I think what describes us, like I said before, it's agriculture. When you walk around or drive around, what you see is farms. But importantly, going to next year's elections, we have already seen the ANC dropping in this community. We are very much happy with what we are seeing on the ground. The ground is responding positively to say they are now ready to collapse the ANC, because I think it has been the voters' registration which has been an issue. Our people think if they don't vote, their vote automatically belongs to the ANC, which is a very huge problem. We must resolve those Maranyana issues through capacitation, like I've spoken before. We must capacitate our people. We must make sure that they are out there pushing for these things to happen. So for as much as we are sitting and doing nothing about these issues, nothing will change. But next year, I can assure you, victory is certain. We are taking over Gauteng as EFF, then we can at last deliver the president in the National Union building, the PTA, next year after May.
So your reflection regarding your 10th year celebration, like, yeah.
Marvelous. I think that was the best celebration of the poor and the working class ever since the history. I think that the last time FNP was filled was during, if not mistaken, Chris Hanni's funeral. It was the last time ANC had capacity to fill that stadium with their own resources, or even if they looted from the government. But at last they managed to provide resources to push that comrades to come to that funeral. It was full. So we also did the same. I think on the 29th we pushed. We had the overflow outside. We had members outside. Actually, there were some who did not have interest to go within the stadium, but just to be outside, greet each other. They drank, they laughed, they sang together. You know, all these kind of things. And importantly, we had all province present. We engaged everyone on issues affecting not only us, but the entire economy of our country and the way this marina of the president is running the country. We had a very huge and an interesting and openly engageable debates. Then through the EFF, we're embracing our local artists. We have seen, I think recently, the ANC gave Trevor Noah 30-something million to deal only to promote South Africa, which we had Zola. If you look back, Zola built art before our people. He was doing many things. We had Lucas paying fees during the Christmas for Lucas donated towards that thing. We must see contribution of that boy of theirs who got millions. Yeah. Our tax money was given simply away to a foreigner. We must be clear, to a foreigner, to say no, this foreigner is going to promote South Africa. Whereas this man has changed even his citizenship. So it is becoming a bit of a concern. But here in the EFF, we are embracing our local artists all the time when we have our own events and everything. We future them first. That is why even in Parliament we have our own local artists to speak on behalf of other artists within the Department of Art.
Larger issue regarding education.
Yes.
I actually be more brand because around for sure I want like on a daily basis. School okay say today. Back then I was at school, like I must say. But no such a because of every day getting into that's school. So SEFF discussion with the ANC. Vote next year. So SEFF leads are in.
Oh, I think if you have followed the issue at Tutem very well, EFF had a safety program running. Fortunately, or let me just say fortunately, the late Smith was heading the program. We used to go there to discipline students ourselves because we've realized that there's nothing that has been done. Myself, I've been part of the community safety, Department of Community Safety. I went through SAPS as a young crime prevention PRO. I spoke for the department as well. I was a spokesperson for that young organization. We pushed program to even come to Tuteng. We adopted Tuteng as a school. That was when I was leading. We adopted Tuteng as a school. SAPS adopted Tuteng through Brigadier Manamela. And issues are unfolding the way they're doing. But importantly, we've been within us. We have realized that part of the issues is the SGB, which fails to call for a constitutional review to look into the disciplinary hearing and disciplinary measures of every student who malfunctions. We spoke, we called Mr. Makaleng until we were saying, "Our chief, look, these people can be simply disciplined by their parents. If a student misbehaves and you call the parent, you punish the student in front of the parent. And the parent is therefore obligated to see to it that the punishment is executed correctly. I think many issues will then reduce. Our community is playing absolutely zero role. So through the EFF, we'll be capacitating equally. I'm just going to go back to the term capacitation. I think maybe the theme of today should have been capacitation. We're going to capacitate our young people and our parents to say how to deal with the issue of education. Remember, education, it takes a mere object. When you give birth to a baby, they are just an object. They understand absolutely nothing. We take them through the process of schooling, so they are psychologically treated and infiltrated with information that can assist them in their day-to-day life. So if we don't take care of such smaranyana thing, it simply means in the nearest future, schools are going to breed animals. So we must be very careful when we approach issues of schools. And equally, we must know that we're not dealing with our peers there. And these peers are being trained in a different manner by different people who are taught this professionalism somewhere else where we don't know. Because at times you realize that behavior, I'm a teacher, also contributes to what we see in that institution. So we have to step in not only with our safety means outside the school, because the school does not allow us to operate within. We can only operate outside. So we need to come up with means to operate within the school. One of the means is a constitutional review. See how we punish our own brothers and our own children at school. That is the only thing I think that will also assist in terms of shaping how Tuteng should be. You know, remember back in the times when we were at school, we knew, hey, you misbehave, we are going to send a letter to your parent. Now it doesn't matter this thing of the letter. We can even tempt her with this phone. Give you my mother's phone and move the same swap now. I put it here, I block you. So it's a problem. We must go back and rearrange and try to readdress these issues correctly.
So as like different parties move and play, so are they united to drive a change?
We have different mandates to start with. I think we have different mandates with the ANC. When we spoke of land, ANC said people don't deserve land. That is why they call red hands to evacuate people. When we said people in Siatlara must not go anywhere, ANC went in with their councillor, they moved axis, say with this ax you are leaving. So we have different mandates, we have different agendas, we have different goals. We want to achieve more different things than what we are looking into as political parties. I think the issue of the DA declaring us enemy number one, push the DA for any favor or anything, even if we see things eye to eye, we know we are declared an enemy. We don't have hope here, long died the thing. We have this Christian movement. We are members of churches ourselves. In our churches we are taught many things, So we have this Christian movement, ACDP, that is here. I think we have engaged ACDP on a couple of issues, but we also came to realize that ACDP is a capitalist organization, or a communist organization. That is what we differ. We subscribe to Leninism, Marxism, and Fanonian ideology. So they don't subscribe. Yes, it's led by Mam Batalisi, or Leader Batalisi. She's a councillor of the ACDP, based in Brandfleet.
So her role more community as that party.
Remember, councillors in mayors, in whoever, you can give them titles. They are simply public servants. They must serve us. That is their role and duty. But it seems everyone is forgetting they are servants simply because they are in. So their duty is to champion development interest of the community. They have no outside mandated scope outside this. They must come to us, get our issues, go to council, debate them, provide leadership for us, provide resources, and equally assist with development in the community. That is their duty, because Brandfleet does not have social development or social department. Who's our social or auxiliary here? The first and foremost is the leadership. Who must the councillor must come and account for social issues in this community. Must understand social issues, how these issues contribute to socio-economic issues as well, so that when we deal with these issues, we understand them on a broader level. So is the very same person who sits in the council with the MMC of the very same department that was speaking of. So these people are public servants. Theirs is to analyze struggles of the community, champion them.
Because there's issue with because they have been illegally removed, I guess, as you say. Then honestly, issue a place. So people, there was a fight around I think 2021. So like the development regarding that and there's issue also like community hall. So what is the prediction?
Okay.
And how about to remove you?
I'll start I think just a few months back there was an introduction there's a company called VAR or whatever. It came here, it told people it was going to develop that particular area, probably like a formalization. But people were not given a thorough explanation of what kind of formalization is going to take place. Either they are going to build RDPs or they are going to formalize the streets, have proper running water and all these things. This is what we're expecting from them. But over time, we saw the councillor and together with some group of his, which are not anything in the community except of their members of the ANC, they went that side to start removing people whom they claimed they have RDPs at Dental or blah 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 whatsoever they have to leave. Yes. So they went there without a database, without anything. They started identifying people, handpicking. You have an RDP, you must leave. You have an RDP, you must leave. So they know people who have RDPs. They don't know people on the waiting list, which is part of our problem. They can't deliver those RDPs, but they claim that they can deliver services that side. Equally, the issue of Portion 48. Portion 48 were told back in 2017, I think province even made funds available. They even made themselves available for any inquiry. To say they gave our municipality 2 million because of the land was actually being sold at 2 million. So at that given time, I'm not sure if the check prices have changed, but the government, our local municipality received that money from the Gauteng department, I think of immense settlement, if not mistaken. If not treasury, it might be immense settlement. They received that funding to buy land. They, instead of buying land, they instead wrote a report back to province. And part of the report, they wrote it to us through the councillor to say, no, Portion 48 has been purchased. You can then commence with development, installation of services and all these things. But only to realize 2021, 2022, no. These people never bought that land. In fact, they got the money, they drafted all the documents, they chowed the money. So we tried to approach this issue. You know how our government operates. Now, no one is willing to account for the 2 million. So we had to push that people must go and occupy that land so that someone becomes accountable as well. So that our people stop being starved 5 shacks in 1 yard. It's impossible. I think all of us, we have a right to land by birth. When you are born, you occupy land, either by walking, by doing, if you want to eat, whatever, it's coming from the land. So we are land animals by nature. We must not even shy away from that. But we know what our government did. So the illegal evictions, we approached them with our own approach. We had, we had of course collisions with these ones. We had our problems. They came They tried to fight us in that meeting, but we managed to deal with these issues, which is their tendency everywhere. They did it in Western area. They stopped our fighters when they were doing Andristakani, cleaning their own community. They were told to stop cleaning. They were stopped with cases that were challenging, we're dealing with now. We have opened case against those communities of the ANC. It's happening even at varsity levels. When we are canvassing, those communities would come. If we have been vigilant, I think we want almost every university in South Africa. As we speak, I think UJ very soon it's going to its election. We moved vets. I don't know, maybe after 7 years we have been using it vets. But recently we took vets. We took UP, which is a very racist institution, if you know it very well. But we took all these things. We even have a case at UP. But importantly, we're saying the EFF is advancing towards the needs of our people.
So regarding the issue, any community or an issue again, I think it was last year. There were this Wi-Fi because Rabona village. I'm not sure what got because we did something activity regarding Wi-Fi, but no since last year up until now. As about anything is to be.
Well, library. When it was not paid actually. When it was placed there, they asked those ladies who own that preschool near the library to say, comrades, we need space. At the moment we have nothing. We need to operate our library. The government understands that once you occupy a particular space for more than 24 hours, it becomes an issue to remove that person. Yeah. So they placed their library there without having a formal written agreement without the crèche. I think if we were to look into it, they robbed those ladies who are running that preschool. So they placed their library there. They promised to move it over time when they have budget to construct a library. So a library is very small in terms of what it should be carrying. It's not carrying its designated capacity. In terms of the resources that are available, when you look into your computers that are there, we only have, I think, 3, which some of them might find difficulties in terms of printing. You have to ask the other one to borrow you 5 minutes of his time so that you can do the printing. See, it becomes a problem in terms of the library being functional. But the library, though, were promised, but these promises were also made verbal by Dumi. I don't know, but then he was still the MC, that was the speaker. He promised that the library is going to be built somewhere where there's a church there. Yeah, those churches, including ZCC, they said all those churches must leave that space so that they build the library. They promised to come and do part of their assessments as municipality to see if there are any services nearby. You're running sewer, you're running water, so that when they build the library, they already know all these other required services are already there. So we were waiting for that report ever since. They promised the state-of-the-art library, which will have sporting facility. Remember, the Department of Arts and Libraries is one thing. So they promised the state-of-art library, which will have a combination of everything that the department is doing, from your sporting activity to your actual library. But we were seeing absolutely nothing. The S community had never had a community hall. That community hall we see there was a donation by government. That is why if you read close to the first door there is a board that comes from government. It states clearly that was a donation. But this thing was donated to who? Because no one is maintaining it, no one is taking care of it. So this thing was donated, but to who? When you need to operate it, councillor wants you to consult them. But if you don't consult them in terms of how are they maintaining the library, they will tell you they don't have resources, it's not part of the municipal assets, it cannot be budgeted for. The community hall is without electricity. In fact, the councillor made an attempt early last year, if not mistaken, to give that library, that community hall to EPWP, some sort of that kind of a program that were coming, which never came, by the way. So these are issues we're faced with.
So there's an issue regarding tender yamate or declaration. What's your take on that?
They claim or tender declaration required 4 million to do that Smaranyana operation. I think if we go there, we look at what they did as compared to how much they were given. That is our tax money. It's practically impossible to believe that this thing happened. You know those taps. plastic taps which
How many
cost
actually?
5 rand.
How many?
I can't be sure, but I don't think there are more than 10. Because we don't even have 10 streets that side. It's only one long street with 2 pubs. No, it's impractical to have used 4 million. Maybe they would claim or they were digging, so they had the TRPs, they were paying the staff and whatsoever, but it does not reach 4 million. When you look into how much those people were paid, 101 rand per day. Imagine how many people were employed. It is impractical that the money has already reached 4 million. What is the size of the pipe? There is no report. That's why I'm saying the councillor is not bringing any report to us to say the pipe that is used is this huge, it carries this particular capacity, it's not going to burst anytime soon. We don't know what is happening there. But I promise you, if you go there and dig, you're going to find a 4 millimeter squared pipe running. The same way they did Komikuku, they installed those fire brigades or what we call them. They moved 4 million to do the same thing, just to circulate this. The very same municipality, they moved one pipe that circulated the entire settlement out in the outer skirts, then they put those fire brigades in jail, and they said it's 4 million. It's impractical. It's impractical to actually.
So I don't believe charitable illegal from that development.
We know definitely that the ANC operates like this, especially towards election. The ANC used to give people free food when approaching elections to win them over. They would bring them t-shirts. Where are those things? We must firstly identify those things have disappeared into thin air because of the ANC was abusing the very same funds that were allocated to provide this. I think during COVID, people were supposed to receive relief grants, relief food, and relief whatever that was provided for by the government. But the procurement was also impossible because councillors took these things, put them in their houses. So where is the money? The very same money that was found in Ramaphosa's house, we must go and search these councillors' houses. We might find dollars there.
So why not only hope our councillor, our current councillor?
I don't have hope in the ANC entirely. It's not only about him, the entire leadership of the ANC. I don't have hope in them. Now, if there's any hope that I have to consider, I also have to look into the practical work of the ANC or any member of the ANC or even the council. So there's nothing, absolutely nothing. We have Women's League, we have high rate of gender-based violence in the community. So what is the role of Women's League? Why must I go there and embrace Women's League? We have Youth League that is not functioning. Their duty is to protect the council. They go into the meeting, they make a lot of noise. You can't even ask questions. So we don't have leadership. We lost hope in the ANC completely, entirely. So it's not only the councillor that is the problem.
Since 2020, we have been having issues with unemployment, especially youth, and it's escalating now.
Yes.
And then now we are heading towards elections. All of a sudden, our premier is bringing up these learnerships and all that. What do you think is doing all this?
By far, we haven't had any young person from this community benefiting from Nancy's plan. We know that the idea of Gauteng police was prematurely conceived. These ones called Amapanyaza. It was premature. When you look into those boys, they are doing nothing except abusing state resources. Look how they drive these cars. They've already joined this system of beating up people. When you are dealing with crime, you beat people, you give them more anger to fight against the very same system. So I think what these people are doing is not to resolve our issues of unemployment. They are simply trying to connive so that they also deal with us. So no, comrades, what trying, what more do you want? I don't think this thing is properly budgeted for. I don't think this thing has a proper directives from a proper office. We've been having Department of Community Safety for many years. We had patrollers who are still here fighting the same crime. Then Panyaza introduced other policing departments to fight. So it becomes a very huge issue in terms of where are these people going to fight their crimes. Because that's what we have to, if they are going to operate in the same space as CPF, as SAPS, and it's them now in the same space, but crime is still high. So they are doing absolutely nothing rather than just trying to blind us so that we go through election thinking that the ANC is willing to revive themselves.
And one would say, I think many people have started to realize, one would say this whole thing is to canvass for ANC for the next elections. And then I don't know, now what are you saying about that?
There's a canvassing strategy. The ANC, before we went to our anniversary, they tried to move their own Smalanyana thing to see if they can gather numbers ahead of us. The premier had organized, imagine the entire premier organizes Nancy Spani, brings this ANC nonsensical candidates there. We have people coming, people are not being catered for.
Bye.